Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I hope you are having a great day. Today's video includes stories about toxic family, sibling favoritism, trauma, and destructive mothers-in-law. I hope you enjoy. Am I the idiot for not letting my mom see her first grandchild's birth? Me and my mom were never close. She was abusive and neglectful. As soon as I moved out, I cut off all contact with her until I found out I was pregnant. My mom was the first person I called, and she immediately came to my house to congratulate me and give me presents. It was the first time in 5 years that she had been nice to me. We spent about 2 days together and then she had to go back home. She visited me almost every day of my pregnancy. She bought baby stuff, clothes for me, a pushchair for the baby, and even helped decorate the nursery. I was 6 months pregnant when I overheard my mom insulting me on the phone to my sister. Have you seen how much weight she's put on? I never put on that much weight when I was pregnant. She doesn't even know what she's doing. That kid will be in foster care before it can even walk. Oh my God. Her words stuck to me. I tried to hold back my tears as I walked past her. My fiancé came home from work and noticed how down I looked. I told him everything that my mom said and he was red with rage. When we went for our appointment to discuss our birthing plan, the doctor asked me who would be in the room with me. I obviously said my fiancé, but I had to think about my mom. Did she really deserve that honor? When the doctor asked me again, I told him my fiancé's mother could come. Everything was planned, and on the day we went to the hospital, we didn't even tell my mom. The birth was painful, but I had the best people with me. Once it was all over, I had a couple hours alone with my fiancé and my son. I finally gained the courage to call my mom and tell her that the baby had arrived. I called her, and when she picked up and saw me holding my son, she was mortified. She was shouting at me down the phone, calling me every name under the sun, calling me ungrateful and a burden. I hung up the call, because I couldn't be bothered to deal with her BS. She came to visit me a few days later with my sisters, and I had a secret I had kept from her, because I knew she would freak once she found out. She held my son in her arms and asked, "What's his name?" My fiancé looked at me with fear in his eyes. "Michael," I replied. She stared at me blankly and yelled, "You named my grandson after the effing grandfather on Asher's side?" Asher is my fiancé. I kicked her out of my house. So am I the a-hole? OP, give us more info. She wanted me to name him Marshall, after her dad, but my fiancé has cancer and doesn't have long left, so we wanted to honor him by naming our son after him. Me and my fiancé agreed to not allow her to come to my wedding. We have cut her off for now, but she'll find her way back, she always does. Oh my God! What's wrong with your mother? It's your baby, you and your fiancé are the parents, the name of your son is your choice, not hers. Your mother can give her opinion, but nothing more. And unless Michael was the name of someone who had caused harm to you, her or something like that, there was no reason for her to have that reaction. No, OP, I don't think you are the idiot. You are simply protecting yourself and your child. Your mother's comments about you, especially the ones to your sister, were uncalled for, especially during such a vulnerable time, like during a pregnancy. And yelling at you over your son's name was completely unnecessary. Does she have a problem with your fiancé or his family? Or is it about not having a say in the baby's name? Perhaps it's just her wanting to control things. Honestly, I don't know. But you were definitely not in the wrong here. You needed people who would support and comfort you during this vulnerable time, and unfortunately, your mother wasn't one of them. I understand the desire to have your mom in your life, but for the sake of you and your child, going no contact with her again might be the best choice for your family. And what do you think about this? What would you do if you were OP? Now let's read some comments. Not the idiot. You went 5 years with no contact and things were swell, right? Sounds like you need about 18 more years of no contact. Not the idiot. Yes, I agree that it warrants a lifetime of no contact. Now when Michael grows up, he can decide what he wants to do, but there's no real advantage to having someone in your life who thinks that because they're nice to you in front of you, they can have a nasty and abusive attitude in your back. You certainly don't deserve that, and rather deserve to have positive and loving people around you. I'm glad you have found a loving family with Asher and his family. It sounds like you have an amazing family and in-law family. Not the idiot. You've given her so many chances, and she doesn't deserve any of them. If you keep giving her chances, this will continue to happen and get worse as time goes on. She doesn't respect you as a person or a parent. Don't give her the opportunity to undermine you in front of your child. Cut her off and live your best life with your fiancé and son. Not the idiot. Cut that shit of your life. She might play nice at times to your face, but she will continue sniveling behind your back. Based on what you're saying in your post, I honestly think your fiancé and kid are better off if you terminate contact. She's mean to you on your weight. Who the F does that? Especially when pregnant. She is hurtful when it comes to naming the kid, doesn't have any say, especially after 5 years of no contact. F that shit, you don't need any of that. Hard. Not the idiot. Not the idiot. You don't have to allow her in the delivery room after she openly insulted you. It was your birth. Her yelling at you on the phone after you gave birth is insane. Then yelling at you over your son's name? You did nothing wrong, and congratulations. And what do you guys think of all this? Do you agree or disagree with the comments? Do you think OP's mother has any right to act like that? Or not? What other advice would you give OP? Please, don't forget to leave your comments down below. Oh, and are you enjoying the video so far? If so, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications to know when a new video is out. This really helps the channel, so I appreciate it. Now let's go to the next story. Am I the idiot for not being understanding of my sister's trauma? This happened a few years ago, but I just wanted to get some insight because my family keeps bringing it up. A few years ago, my sister, who was 16 at the time, got into a car accident. She wasn't severely injured, just some cuts and a sprained wrist, but it was obviously very scary for her. She was the one driving and there was nobody else in the car. After that, she developed an intense fear of cars and driving that extended to others as well. She started having to take public transit to school, and every time one of my parents needed to use a car for anything, grocery shopping, appointments, etc., she would start sobbing and begging them not to get in a car, because she was scared they would get hurt. Eventually, my parents also stopped driving and would just do everything virtually or get food delivered. They both worked from home, so it wasn't a big deal. At the time, I was a freshman in college, and I really wanted my family to attend my first big theater performance of the year. However, my college is several hours away and it's pretty difficult to get to using public transportation, so my parents were planning to use a car to get there. However, my sister obviously refused to go because of the car fear, which was understandable. But, about a week before the performance, my parents informed me that they would no longer be attending the performance either, because my sister would scream and cry every time they brought it up. They said there would be other performances, so it didn't matter that they wouldn't go to this one. Yes, it matters a lot. I was pretty upset because it was my first leading role, and they had promised they'd be there to support me. I tried to find ways they could come using public transit, but the logistics were just too difficult, so I eventually just started begging them to use the car to come and that it was really important to me. They got upset with me and said I wasn't being understanding of my sister's trauma, and that I was being selfish. At that point I just gave up, but even now, years later, they still bring it up, and talk about how awful I was to them. And you should also bring it up how horrible they all were to you. So was I really the idiot? Edit, the performance was several months after the accident had happened. OP also gives more info in the comments. All of the clinics under our insurance didn't have any open telehealth options, and my sister obviously refused to go to any in-person therapy, so my parents eventually just decided she should get through it without therapy. She's better now, she can ride in a car without much fuss, but she still doesn't want to drive if she can help it. It's not that they were leaving her by herself, that she had an issue with, it's that they were using a car to get there and she had trauma around cars. She wouldn't go to in-person appointments, we tried. So they just sort of gave up. I was going to ask if OP's sister had overcome her trauma by now, but I believe the answer is kinda off. No, OP, you're not the idiot, but your parents are. Not only because they didn't help your sister deal with her trauma the right way, since she definitely needed therapy at the time, but because they allowed her trauma to dominate their lives. Look, trauma is a serious thing, and it can be triggered by a lot of things, obvious or not to others, and if left untreated it can control the rest of a person's life, which is bad enough. But it's even worse when we end up doing the same thing to those around us, allowing them to be at the mercy of our fears. That's exactly what your sister did to your parents, and what's even worse is that they allowed it. I don't know if it was to appease your sister or because it was easier for them than dealing with the real issues, but they allowed her fear to dominate their lives too. As a result, you've suffered from this decision, OP. I'm sorry they didn't care or didn't care enough about how this affected your life. And if they still bring it up to this day, your reaction to this situation, it really must have shocked them. I think they also expected you to accept to be a hostage of your sister's trauma, and they were surprised when you said no. I'd like to say they still talk about it because they feel guilty about not being there for you, or for not searching for help for your sister sooner, but clearly not. Honestly, I'd normally have more sympathy for your parents, OP. Dealing with your sister's trauma isn't easy, but since they are still idiots to you until today, years later, I can't defend them. If it were me, I'd respond to them with the same words every time they called me an a-hole. And remind them how much of an a-holes they were to me. Some may say it's petty, but since they keep bringing it up, that's what I would do. And what do you guys think about this situation? What would you do if you were OP? What advice would you give her? Don't forget to leave your comments down below. And now, let's read the comments. Not the idiot, her and your parents are tough for letting an irrational fear dominate their and your lives. They need to get her in therapy and stop kowtowing to her demands or it'll become a more entrenched thing over time. Not the idiot, sister needs therapy. Not the idiot. This is exactly right. OP, it may help to do some reading about PTSD and have your parents and sister do so too. Specifically, avoidance is a key factor that maintains the mental health impacts of trauma over time. Had your sister gotten therapy after the accident, she likely would have been encouraged to take small steps towards being able to ride in cars. Your family participating in the avoidance for so long likely made it harder to recover. They probably didn't know better, and sure everyone was shaken up and doing the best they could, but they should now do some learning. This won't be the last difficult thing that happens, and this isn't a coping style that is likely to help. Not the idiot, and let me say, your sister's reaction is not normal after a minor car accident. It is not understandable that she refuses to get into a car and has screaming/crying fits when anyone else does. Yes, being in an accident is scary, however it should not be debilitating. Your parents should have put her in therapy immediately so she can deal with this instead of giving in to her unreasonable demands. Not the idiot, your parents are enabling your sister's trauma and stalling her recovery. They allowed it to adversely affect their other child's life, and even altered their own habits to accommodate her. She needed therapy and, I'm assuming, did not get it for her. They were, totally in the wrong about this. I'm sorry it's still brought up, perhaps you should show them this thread. And what do you guys think of all this? Do you agree or disagree with the comments? Would you say anything else to OP? If so, don't forget to leave your comments below. And that's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time.